Next up, we have News and Views S-Scale 2 rail, building a brass SW 1500 kit. Welcome, Jamie, with the truly ideal scale, I have to admit. It certainly is a nice size.
That's
And
that's what we all like to think. So
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 what
anyway, I'm officially on summer vacation. Yay me. So that's nice, and put together this little presentation for you. I'm kind of whatever I've been working on, and this is something that caught my fancy. I bought it few years ago, and finally decided maybe I should put it together. So let me just see if I can do the old share the screen here. Share the screen. There's my presentation. Come on, open up. There we go. And we'll go here and we'll go. Where is that view slideshow? Okay, there you go. Let me just close up everybody's pictures here. All right, so what we're gonna do today. Oh, doesn't like that one. Okay, what do I do? This one? That likes this one. Okay. We're gonna build an S&W 1500 kit in brass, part one. Didn't get a whole, there's a lot to do on this, so I'm hoping to stretch this out into several more episodes again. One of my goals for the next couple months is to catch up on some of the projects I've been starting on. So I actually finish stuff, use all this time that I've got. Anyway, this kit was produced by Gilmar out of England, and they produced, I believe, four kits. This S&W 1500 and then four U-boats, U-18, a U-23, and a U-28 or something like that. I don't really know. They didn't really interest me, but this one kind of caught my eye, and so I slapped down the money and bought one. And you can see the kit came out. Here's right here. You can see the kit came out in 2016. So it came out about 9 years ago. I don't know that I've had mine quite that long, but I do remember purchasing one. This information, of course, is on the NASG website, nasg.com. And our webmaster's a great guy. He does all kinds of good stuff. So you can see he's got all kinds of external references of sites you can visit about the prototype model, and then also things about the kit. So here's a couple online articles. I really should check those out and see what they have to say. Um, and then it says kit, a little bit about the kit. And then someplace on this, there is a photo of the completed, a completed model. Colin Stewart is the principal behind Gilmar Models. And so anyway, that's what I'm hoping mine looks like when I'm done with it, but we'll have to see. So, okay.
Hmm.
So here's what the first part I had to do was they want you to solder a bolt onto the back of this piece here to take a nut. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. Solder the nut on to take the bolt to hold the coupler in place. And then these little wings will be folded up and soldered to the inside of the pilot. But you have to do this first because once you solder all this, the pilot all together, you can't get at it to put it in. And you certainly couldn't get at it to put that nut in there. So that was the first thing I did. And this is the first little trick I'll offer you is I put this piece of paper, I put the bolt through the piece of paper and then threaded it to the nut. And, you know, that tightened it up to hold it into place. But then when I soldered it, I didn't have to worry about any stray solder getting onto the head of the bolt to solder the whole thing together, which I certainly didn't want to happen. And I have to report to you, there's the picture of the back. So you see what I did is I poked a hole in there and then drove it up through there. And so it shows the paper keeps the solder out of the threads. And I got to tell you, it worked really well. So I'm quite pleased with myself that I managed to pull that off and it worked well. So there are my two coupler pads with the nut all soldered on there, ready to go. So then I moved on to the pilot itself, and so the directions say, if you want to add extra details to the pilot, like a coupler lift bars and a handhold that goes across the front of it, then you have to drill out the holes. The holes aren't there; they're marked from the back, but then if you don't want to put them in, you don't have to. But I thought, well, if I'm building this thing, I want it to look good, so I better put all those in. So I got out my handy pin vise. This is, this pin vise. I collect pin vices. I have several of them. This one is one of my favorites, actually. I believe I bought it from Micromark. If you're familiar with a Yankee screwdriver, that's basically what this thing is. I call it a Yankee pin vise. But basically, what you do is you push down that little knurled knob up at the top, and it causes the pin vise to spin. And so you do this, right? And so this is I'm saying that there's an action shot of the pin vise, but I can't actually take an action shot of the pin vise because I generally run it with two hands. So I usually put the my index finger of my left hand on top of the pin vise, and then I run the slider up and down with my right hand, and then that makes the whole thing work. So it made pretty short work of this, and I didn't break any drill bits. I was pretty lucky. And I actually I dropped the dumb thing when I was done, and that's when I broke it a bit. But that when I was drilling the holes, I got all of them drilled. So that represents what, six holes in either pilot. So that's a dozen holes I got in. So, and then this picture shows what I did. What the one handhold on this is just a big bar that goes all the way across the front of it. So it attaches over here, it attaches over here, and then it just sticks out. So in order to keep it at a specified distance, I grabbed a scrap of 132nd laser board. You can see it fits very nicely in there. And so that keeps it spaced out from the pilot itself an equal distance, and that's about 2 inches in S scale. So I figured that's probably a pretty good dimension to do. So put a little piece of tape on it to hold it all together. I turned it over and I dabbed it with the solder. Put a little dibby dab of solder on the back of this and the back over here, and now it's all solid. And then I trimmed off the spare that the excess as close as I could, and I got to go back and file that flat because these uh, these pieces show up in the step well, so they've got to be filed smooth. Otherwise, you'd be able to see them in the step well of the locomotive when it's done. You can kind of make out that this is the back of the pilot here that's going to get folded down. So this piece is folded. And my other thing is I don't know, but I'm following the directions, doing what they say to do. But I think if I were to do it again, they said bend this piece of the pilot, bend this first face of the pilot down, and then later on I'm going to solder those coupler pads that I made into the back of that. But I think if I were to do it again, I would solder the coupler pads in first. Now maybe they've taken all this into account, but I don't know. I think that's where I would go. So anyway, so that's what I did. Then I had to form the coupler bars. So what I did after trying this a few times, I decided that what I would do is get a couple of pieces of strip wood, which were about the right size. I think those are 3/16, which is a foot in S scale. So that seemed about right. So I bent the wire. I put up in pliers and bent it once. And then I slapped those two pieces of strip wood on either side of the wire, and then I bent it over. So it's already got one bend in it, and this is ready to get bent over to form the second bend. So this is actually the lining up the fourth bend. So I bent it over. This is where the strip wood was at the first. And then what I did was I took it and I measured it to the two holes on the pilot where the
Okay, that's not working very good either. I'm gonna leave that one.
okay.
What was that?
Uh, I lined up where the lift rings were for the lift bar, and I bent it and I measured it and it fit up okay. So then I put it back into the strip wood again and I bent it over again. And so there is my piece all fit up, and you can see. So this is the piece that sticks out over the coupler. Okay, and there's my completed coupler lift bar. So again, I bent this piece first, like right here. Um, and then what I did, so it was just a right angle bend. And then I put it up against the strip wood. I put a piece in here and a piece in here, and I bent it over. So I got that. And then I measured this in here. And then I put a piece of strip wood here and here and bent this piece over to get that. And I'm sorry, I bent that with the pliers. And then I put the strip wood in here and here and bent that bend. And so they're roughly the same size. It's better than I could do by eyeballing. And then, so now what I've got to do is put the lift rings on, and then then solder those into the pilot. But all this has to be done because of course you can't just slide this in to the pilot. You can't slide it through. There's 4 lift rings on there, so you can't slide it through the lift rings. With that bend in the middle of it. So all this had to be bent up in at first. I actually made the lift rings too. Lift rings are a bit of a thing right now. If they're out there, I'm not sure where. I've been looking, but I just made my own out of wire, and I thought they ended up looking pretty good. So that's what I got so far. There's my pilot nearing completion. Again, so this is the bar. That's the handhold. It looks like it's got a little bit of a bend up in it, but it really doesn't. It's really quite straight if you look at it in person. And then these are my homemade lift rings here. And of course, my coupler lift bar. And I've got the one lift down, bent down. And then when I took the picture, since then I've bent the other one down. And then these things, I believe, have to get bent back toward, the bottom of this piece has to get bent back toward the pilot. And so then that will finish that off. And so I have, of course, the other one to do yet. These, of course, are the footboards. Again, here you can see this is the step well in here, and then this is the back of the step well that this piece back here that you fold down. All these slots here are to hold the steps. The backs of these have a little indent in them, and then these have an actual slot in them that you can get at and solder. So that's as far as I've gotten with my S&W 1500 kit so far. So you can see I got quite a ways to go, but I'm having fun with it. I like to say any day you can melt solder is a good day. So that's where I'm at.
Jamie, what is the soldering iron or soldering equipment? What are you using? Like a Weber? What type are you using?
Uh, I'd have to check again. I was just going to do that. Thank you. I forget the name of it. I bought it from a place called, oh gosh, they keep sending me.
Maybe on your next show, just show a picture of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually showed it on the track program. When I did the
Ah,
track, I showed it there. Now this is just an iron. All I've been using is a fairly small iron. I think technically it would be considered an electronics iron, but I do have a resistance unit that I think I'm going to have to break out when I get to some of the bigger bits of this kit because in trying to solder up that piece of the pilot, it wasn't melting the solder all that well. So I'm going to have to break out the big guns, for a few bits of this kit. But for these little bits on the pilot, I'm pretty good with my little unit.
well, it looks like you're going to have a museum piece when you're all done.
Well, I hope, we'll have to see. So, um,
Well, any questions for Jamie this evening?
I've got a question for you, Jamie. Steve Sherrill here. Um, Evidently you do like brass soldering. You know, is how are the instructions on this? Was the instructions pretty good?
so far I'd say they're pretty good. I mean, like I say, they're that one order process I might have done in a slightly different order, but other than that, they seem pretty good. I'm not that far into it. I can't tell you. I'm one of these guys who jumps in and does stuff. I don't read the instructions necessarily. So, I read I'm forcing myself to read the instructions, but I'm not reading them too far in advance. So, I haven't like read all the way through to the end. So, but I'm going to try to analyze some of the steps a little more to see if there's anything that I need to adjust the order or whatever. So,
Yeah, I don't think we saw the kit in pieces. Do you have anything like that? Maybe at the next
Yeah,
segment
next
that you
time.
show. Did you show
Yeah,
the pieces?
I can just a sec. I can go get it.
No, let's do it next time.
Yeah, next time.
Next,
Okay, well, all
and
right.
are they photo etched pieces? That was my question.
Yes, they're photo etched. So,
Yeah, that would be interesting to see. I agree with Steve.
Yeah,
okay.
you will be bending some pieces, right?
Yes. Well, I bent I bent the front of the pilot. That's my, and of course I bent all the wire, but that's not really a kit piece. But I
Yeah,
bent the front of the pilot yet, and then all the pieces are scored. Where they're supposed to bend them. I mean, etched or whatever. Like partway through that.
yeah.
Is
And
the
so,
kit still in production?
I don't believe it's in production anymore. So I don't remember if I bought the last one, but like you'd have to look around and see what you could find.
Does he make other locomotives or was this a one-off?
Well, as I said, he's got 3 U-boats and
Oh,
a
So he's still in business. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what his current production.
No, Mike
status is.
Calvert died here a couple of years ago,
Oh,
and he was the one that was running the company. He was from England, and he passed away here a couple of years ago. So what's out there is out there.
okay.
Ah,
There you go.
well, that's
So-
too bad.
I don't know if like I said, the guy I got it from was I referenced his photo in the
Yeah. Nice.
in that he was the one that I bought the kit from. I thought he was marketing them from, so like I think he contracted with Gilmore to do it. So whether he's got the drawings or whatever, if he ever wanted to make any more, I don't know. But anyway,
Okay.
Is there a commercial model of that already made? Is it one on?
there aren't any. That's the only kit for that locomotive in S scale.
Okay.
I bought it primarily because I like to build brass things. Like I want to get better at building in brass. I've got several brass kits, and I keep looking at these like, well, it's a diesel, it's easier to build. It's squares and whatever blocks, and it's not like a steam engine where it's got all those pipes and stuff hanging off of it. So I figure I'll practice up on that and go back. I have a couple steam engines I'm working on too, but I got to go back to those. So again, summer's here. I got time. So
There you are.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you for multiple series on this. We're looking forward to that.